May the 8th, 1886. The first Coca-Cola was served here in Atlanta. So how did its creator die poor, while his invention went on to conquer the world?
There you are, sir, Coca-Cola. I trust you'll find it refreshing.
A civil war wound, an addiction he could not escape, and a drink that would become one of the most famous names on earth. But John Pemberton would lose the creation that could have made him rich, and die before he ever understood what Coca-Cola was about to become. On a hot August morning in 1888, the pharmacists of Atlanta did something extraordinary. One by one, they locked the doors of their shops, stopped serving their customers, and walked together through the summer heat to bury one of their own. The man inside the coffin had been a respected chemist, a businessman, and a wounded soldier. He had also created a dark, sweet syrup that was being sold from a pharmacy counter for 5 cents a glass. The coffin carried a man Atlanta had known as a skilled chemist. Long before Coca-Cola became a famous name, Pemberton worked like this, measuring, testing, and altering one mixture after another. He was not chasing a global brand. He was searching for a tonic that worked. But John Pemberton died sick, financially troubled, and still dependent on the morphine that had controlled him for more than 20 years. He could not possibly have known that the name attached to his strange new drink would eventually be recognized across the world. That name was Coca-Cola. The first location is Columbus, Georgia, the 16th of April, 1865.
The closing days of the Civil War.
Exactly. Our first journey to meet people who changed the world. Our mission is John Pemberton, the man who created Coca-Cola. Observe but don't interfere. Keep the watch active. If I tell you to move, move immediately.
Understood. Keep the connection open, Alan. I'm excited, but I'm nervous too.
I'll be with you the whole time. Find John Pemberton and learn what happened to him at Columbus.
I will.
Good luck, Raina.
Goodbye, Alan.
Alan, I can barely see through the smoke. The noise is everywhere.
Stay away from the fighting. Pemberton is with the cavalry, near the bridge. It was 1865, and the Civil War was almost over. But for John Pemberton, one violent moment at Columbus was about to begin a struggle that would follow him for the rest of his life.
Alan, an officer has gone down. I think it's Pemberton.
Raina, move away from the bridge. Take cover behind the building, now. Pemberton survived, but morphine was used to relieve his pain, creating another problem. It was one of the most effective painkillers then available. It was also dangerously addictive. The battlefield wound happened in a moment. The dependency would remain for the rest of his life. Pemberton was not an ignorant travelling salesman, carrying a suitcase of worthless remedies. He was a trained and respected pharmacist and chemist. He manufactured medicines, developed chemical preparations, and became an influential figure within Georgia's pharmaceutical profession. Behind that professional reputation was a private struggle. Morphine eased his pain and then demanded more from him. Money that should have supported his businesses and family disappeared into his dependency. Pemberton began experimenting constantly, looking for something that might provide relief without returning him to the drug. That search led him towards two ingredients that were widely used in 19th century tonics, the coca leaf and the cola nut. One contained cocaine, the other contained caffeine. Both were promoted as stimulants capable of restoring energy and improving the spirits.
Alan, I'm in Atlanta. I'm going to find Pemberton now. I'll contact you as soon as I can. The heat is oppressive. The smell reaches you first. Horses, smoke, drains, and food left in the sun. The past is not nearly as clean as people imagine.
Mind your step, miss. That gutter will ruin your boots.
Thank you. Is it always like this?
In August, this is a good street.
Atlanta was rebuilding itself after the destruction of the Civil War. It was growing quickly, but modern sanitation remained limited. Horses filled the streets, open drains carried waste, and the summer heat intensified almost every smell. It was energetic, ambitious, and often extremely uncomfortable. It was also an age of patent medicines. Pharmacists sold tonics for headaches, indigestion, exhaustion, low spirits, and almost every other human complaint. Regulation was weak, claims were often extravagant, and customers rarely knew precisely what was inside the bottle.
Mr. Pemberton, forgive the intrusion. I have something important I must discuss with you. May I have a moment of your time?
Very well. Come in.
You are not from Atlanta.
No, I'm traveling through. What are you preparing?
A restorative tonic, wine, coca leaf, and cola nut. It sharpens the mind and strengthens the body, or that is what I am attempting to achieve.
And does it ease pain?
For a while.
Sometimes for a while is all a man can find.
Pemberton called the mixture French wine coca. It was inspired by Vin Mariani, a successful European tonic combining wine and coca leaves. The coca supplied cocaine, while the cola nut supplied caffeine. Today, that combination sounds alarming. In the 1880s, both ingredients were openly sold and promoted as medicines. Pemberton advertised the tonic as a treatment for nervous exhaustion, headaches and fatigue. There is little reason to believe he thought he was deliberately deceiving people. He worked within the medical understanding of his time, and he appears to have believed deeply in what he was making. He was not simply selling a drink, he was trying to solve his own problem. Then, after Atlanta and Fulton County voted to prohibit alcohol, the restriction took effect in 1886. Pemberton's most promising product was suddenly threatened. He could abandon it or remove the alcohol and attempt to create something entirely new. It was no longer French wine coca. It needed a new name. That task fell to Pemberton's bookkeeper and business partner, Frank Robinson, a man whose contribution would become almost as recognizable as the drink itself.
I have been looking at the ingredients, sir. I believe the name may be Coca-Cola. The 2 C's would look well in advertising.
Robinson did more than suggest the name. He wrote it in the flowing script that remains familiar today.
There. A flowing hand gives it character. Those 2 C's should catch the eye.
Before the factories, the famous bottle, or the enormous advertising campaigns, the identity of Coca-Cola already existed in ink on a sheet of paper. On the 8th of May, 1886, the first known glass of Coca-Cola was served at Jacob's Pharmacy in downtown Atlanta. Pemberton's syrup was carried to the soda fountain, poured into a glass, and mixed with carbonated water.
What is it? Coca-Cola, a new tonic, 5 cents a glass.
Well, let us see what 5 cents buys.
That is unusual. Not unpleasant, though. I may have another tomorrow.
It cost 5 cents. Early advertisements described Coca-Cola as delicious, refreshing, and invigorating. Some still presented it as a brain tonic capable of relieving headaches and exhaustion. But there was no sudden rush of customers. During its first year, the drink reportedly sold an average of only about 9 servings each day. 9 glasses. It was not yet an empire. It was barely a successful local product. But Pemberton believed that the formula had potential.
Mr. Pemberton, are you pleased with it?
Pleased, yes. Satisfied, no. A formula is only the beginning. It must still find its public.
How far do you believe it could travel?
Beyond Atlanta, I hope. Perhaps people will ask for it by name in cities I shall never visit.
I think people will remember the name.
Then Mr. Robinson chose his letters wisely.
Raina knew what would happen. She knew that the handwritten name would eventually appear on signs, bottles, vehicles, and buildings throughout the world. She also knew that the tired man standing before her would never see any of it. But history cannot be rewritten simply because its ending feels unfair.
Mr. Pemberton, I have to go now, but before I do, I want you to know you're a good man. And I think what you've created will matter far more than you could ever imagine.
Thank you, miss.
Goodbye, Mr. Pemberton.
Pemberton's health was deteriorating. He was suffering from stomach cancer, and the morphine dependency that had begun after the war still controlled him. He needed money for his family, his businesses, and the addiction consuming an increasing share of his income. He began selling pieces of his interest in Coca-Cola to different partners. The transactions became complicated, and historians have never found one simple moment when the entire invention changed hands. An ambitious Atlanta pharmacist named Asa Candler gradually acquired control of the formula, the name, and the business. Across the various transactions, the rights reportedly cost Candler approximately $2,300. Pemberton saw Coca-Cola principally as a medicinal tonic. Candler saw a refreshment that could be marketed to everyone, but that transformation belonged to the future.
I can see him, Alan. He looks terribly ill. I do not think I should go inside.
No, let him remain with his family.
When I spoke to him, I was proud, not arrogant, just hopeful. He thought it might reach a few cities.
That was all he could know. John Pemberton died in 1888, just 2 years after creating Coca-Cola. He had little money, his health was gone, and much of his creation had slipped from his control. But his death was not the end of Coca-Cola. In many ways, it was only the beginning. Pemberton never saw Coca-Cola sold throughout the United States. He never saw the bottling plants, the contour bottle, the vast advertising campaigns, or the company spreading into countries he had never visited. He never watched his small Atlanta experiment become part of everyday life for generations of people. and he never received the fortune associated with it. That fortune went to the people who understood how to market, distribute, and protect what he had created. But none of them could have built the empire without the wounded pharmacist who stood over a laboratory bench, trying to find a way out of his own pain. Coca-Cola did not begin with happiness, Christmas advertising, or people sharing drinks on a perfect summer afternoon. It began with war. It began with injury. It began with addiction. And it began with a man desperately searching for something better.
It is hard to leave knowing what comes next. He was close to something enormous, but too early to understand it.
But Raina, that is exactly why his story matters. The world remembers the product. It should also remember the man who created it.
Yes, it should. He never knew.
No, but now we do. When we look at Coca-Cola today, it seems almost impossible to imagine a time when nobody had heard of it. But every global name begins as an uncertain idea. John Pemberton's idea emerged from pain, experimentation, and one of the darkest periods of his life. He did not become rich from it. He did not live to see its success. Dr. John Stith Pemberton, born in Knoxville, Crawford County, Georgia, July the 8th, 1831, died in Atlanta, Georgia, August the 16th, 1888, originator of Coca-Cola. Perhaps that is the final contradiction of his life. He never found that freedom for himself, but during the search, he created something the world would never forget.